Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a program that I've been looking forward to probably for years at Cannes because we are going to be talking to one of my favorite people on the internet and one of my favorite people in the business. We're here to talk about Gen Z influencing their habits in the on-demand economy. We're so grateful to Uber for hosting us. Thank you to Christy and the team. And just to give you a quick rundown of who we are, my name is Sara Fischer. I am the media correspondent at Axios. I've been with the company since before we launched. I cover all things media, advertising, social media, and tech. And Axios loves to come to Cannes and bring you some of the best newsmaker programs of the week. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our first panel. Please give a very warm welcome to the star of the internet, Jake Shane, and Spotify's Chief Public Affairs Officer, Dustee Jenkins. All right, so the inception story to this panel is every year I come to Spotify, they have a big party Monday, and I see Jake Shane there, and I always say, Jake, you're my favorite person on the internet. Jake, did you ever think that this was what your world was going to be, that you're going to come to these types of conferences, do panels like this?
No, never. I actually thought like I was gonna work in music. Funny enough, I was.
Listen, let us know.
I know.
Still possible.
I know. Thank God. I was an assistant to this guy at a record label, and I had like plans to work in A&R, and like that was like my plan for 2023. I was like, okay, I'm gonna work in A&R, and I'm gonna do this, that, and the third, and I'm gonna be like a record label star. And then and I was posting TikToks, but I never ever thought about the business side of it ever. It was really just super fun for me. And then it took off over a week, and then the guy who I was the assistant for became my manager, and now I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just quickly back up. So you said blew up in a week. I think the thing that put you on the map for a lot of people, myself included, was you doing these very creative sort of like historical reenactments.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, why did that resonate with so many people on the internet? Was it just that it was the first time anyone had done something like this? And also, how did you know how did you know to do that?
I used to post like 17 times a day. Like I really used to not care as much as I do today. And like, because I used to not see it as a business, so I really didn't have much to lose. I was kind of like, well, whatever. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But now sometimes when I post, I think like, okay, well, like you just like kind of like think, get a little bit more in your head. But I think it really took off because it was very interactive. So like when you comment on a video, it like boosts it. But like the inherent nature of the skits was that it was like you were in improv and like throwing out like, okay, name a place and a thing and like do it, you know? And so it was very interactive, and people were like commenting like things for me to act out. And I think that's why but I didn't think about it at the time. Really, it was just very fun for me. And I think people felt like a part of it, and it really just like took off.
Holy moly, and it very much did. How many followers do you have on TikTok?
3.3 million.
That is absolutely wild. Congratulations. Dustee, we have a lot of creators, especially coming out of the pandemic, and folks like Jake, who they pretty much became overnight superstars. And when they try to figure out, like, what's my next path to connecting with my audience, a lot of them launch podcasts. And where do they do that? A lot of them on Spotify.
Lucky us.
How did you sort of create that influencer to podcast pipeline? Was that done intentionally, or did that happen organically?
I think for a long time, people have been talking about this idea of the creator economy taking off. But I do think that the pandemic sent us all to this place of how do we find that outlet? And then how do we tap into pop culture when things are not playing out as they normally would? And what's been incredible to see is how it's grown. And so today what we're seeing is people are, to your very point, like not just using podcasts for once a week to go deep on one topic. They're using them constantly to update. We also are seeing this explosion of video podcasts. And I know, Jake, for you've really focused on video throughout. But for many podcasters, they started with audio. And now they're really wanting to connect on a deeper level. And so they're going more and more into video. And for Gen Z in particular, video podcasts have really grown. So we are seeing a 40% increase in listening of video podcasts overall, but for Gen Z, it's around 70%. And so they really not only want to hear you, they want to see and feel exactly what's playing out. But I think it's incredible. And I think it speaks to this idea of tapping into culture. Culture is unfolding on platforms like Spotify. It's unfolding through the creators. And I think it's really different. Like, even looking at Can, when you think about the celebrities who are here this week, our pal Jake. It
Thank
really
you.
is this idea of the creator has taken that front and center role, and everyone's looking to get their picture with you these days.
Thank
Pretty awesome.
He's a humble guy, guys. No, it's amazing when you talk about the creators coming here, because I think about Cannes Film. Cannes Film used to be the place where everyone from Hollywood went. Cannes Lion has completely overshadowed Cannes Film in terms of the fact that this is where the creators are, this is where the money is, the business is. Jake, for you as a creator on Spotify, what tools do you use? How do you use that platform to be able to sort of reach new people, but also go deeper with your loyalists?
I use the comment section a lot,
Yeah.
just like to see what people are saying about the episode, because the Spotify comment section is different than other platforms because it's a little more like it's people that have listened to the entire episode
Yeah.
that are gonna comment. It's like a little more people comment with context more on Spotify than they do on other platforms, so I appreciate that. And there's like a poll feature which you can use to like interact with your audience, see what they want to see next. Those are the two main ones I really use. And Spotify's recently rolled out like clips for podcasts, which I've also been using a lot because that's pretty important to my show.
So for Therapuss, your show, how did you decide what the subjects were going to be, what the format was going to be like, how you were going to make this distinctive?
I used to do this thing on my Instagram story where I would say like, tell me what's wrong, and I would like give people like bad advice essentially, and that was going to be the basis for the podcast, and that's kind of like where it started, and it's now like kind of become way more like interview based with people. It's like really cool because it's like evolving every day. It's like I'm doing like way less. It really depends on the person and the episode. But I would say in season 2, as opposed to season 1, it became very, very, very interview based in season 2. But
And
sorry,
no,
you.
going into the interviews part of it, have you been doing media training, or it's just organically what you feel like works? How do you improve your skill set there?
I listen to the people around me, so I don't do any media training. But like I used to interrupt people a lot. I do that a lot less now. Well, kind of. And then it's just like it's simple. Like you don't really need like media training to be like good at that. It's more like you kind of just have to do it. And like I have like my like Louise, my manager who like works with me, will tell me like in this last episode you were thinking about what you were gonna say while they were speaking instead of like just hearing what they were saying and then coming up with a question. Like it's okay to pause. So it's like advice like that I'm like, okay, and I'll take that into the next one.
You're like a manager's dream client that you're just taking their feedback. Louise,
Louise,
you're
do you
very
hear
lucky.
that?
Love that.
Dream client.
Dream client. Dustee, you got
Take
a lot
that
of
with
these.
you.
Take it. Write it down. You've got a lot of Gen Zers who are embracing these tools. Is it that younger people are better at embracing the tools, taking risk, or do you see this across the board with all of your creators?
Yeah, I think I was having a conversation yesterday with Mark Ronson on our beach, and we were talking about this idea that you would buy a CD and an artist would sell a CD and you had no idea what happened. You didn't know if someone played it 50 times, if they played it twice, if they skipped the song every single time, if they only played one track. And now with Spotify's data, for any creator, for a music artist, for a podcaster, you can get a ton of data. You can know who's listening, where they sit, how long they listened, what did they think. You can ask them polling questions. Should we talk about this? And so this idea that the creator and the audience have just come so much closer together. And I do think that you're seeing with Millennial and Gen Z in particular, they want that information. It's this desire to constantly improve and connect. And I think that's really incredible. They also understand it's a highly lucrative career for many. And so they're looking at ways that they can monetize. And how do you monetize? Like any craft, you get better and better at what you do. And so I think part of the data is enabling them to really unlock that opportunity.
Jake, for you as a creator, Dusty's talking about monetization. You run small business, right? You run Jake Shane Inc. Where are the platforms that you think you're finding a lot of success in building your business versus the ones that you use but not necessarily your money makers?
I make money differently on like every platform. I would say like TikTok is mostly like the brand deals, and then with like Spotify and such, like those are like the ad reads I do for my podcast, and like that is kind of like universal amongst like I don't really get into. I feel like I should. I don't really get into the nitty gritty of the finances because I'm so hyper focused on like the content, and the creative of it all, and like if I start focusing on the finances, like I'll lose my mind.
Louise,
but
that's you.
yeah, or my mom who won't leave me alone about it. But yeah, like as long as I know like I'm good, like I'm good. Like I can focus on the creative of it all.
I think that's actually the perfect setup because you don't want to get too bogged down in that. Okay, you mentioned your mom. Can I just get honest feedback? Like, what do your parents think about the fact that you're this like superstar?
They're obsessed.
I love that. Do they listen to everything? Do they watch everything?
My dad listens to everything.
Does he give you feedback?
Yeah.
Wait. I have so many thoughts. Like, is it constructive feedback?
No, it's like he sent me a video I posted the other day and was like, "You're drinking too much."
Stop. Like, this is how
Any
the
good
magic-
parent,
Yeah.
any good parent will give you that advice.
Or like sometimes he'll message me about a guest, which I think is really sweet. So like when I had Max Stalter on, he messaged me and was like, "She seems super cool." Or like when I had Lord on, he was like, "She also seems super cool." I was like, "Well, yeah, that's Lord." So
that is who she is. Dusty, you're a mom of two.
I'm a mom of two, yes.
Correct me. Hutch, Savannah. Did I
Havana
nail
and
that?
Hutch, look
Havana
at
and
you.
Hutch? Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so they are not quite Gen Z, I don't think, right? Gen Alpha?
Gen Alpha, but very into creators, very into content on Spotify.
Okay, so do they know who Jake Shane is?
Absolutely, they know who Jake Shane is. I've got to get a photo for Havana later on.
thank God.
They better know who Jake Shane is. Okay, so when you think about their relationship with creators, how is it evolving differently for these very, very younger generations compared to, folks like us?
Yeah, so we have, when you step back and zoom way out, Spotify is in 184 countries. We have almost 700 million users on the platform. And I also think when you think about use case for different platforms, each one is really different. You were talking about that as you even think about content. Spotify is really a place where you go for inspiration, ideas, fun, laughter, being uplifted. In fact, we're sort of the anti-doom scrolling because when you listen to music, when you listen to a funny podcast, you walk away feeling happier and lighter. And so it's really something that we incorporate into our daily lives as a family. We're listening to content in the car, we're talking about pop culture. And because I'm so tapped into it, I'm able to really choose for my kids. And I feel really good about it. I don't let them listen to everything. We definitely draw some lines. But I do think for this generation, as well as Gen Z overall, you want to ensure that it's time well spent. And when we really think about Spotify, whether or not you feel like you're getting a little bit smarter or that you started your day feeling slightly happier instead of starting with the news, which can feel heavy sometimes, it is a bit of an antidote to what's happening in the world around us.
Jake, on the creator side, because I hear what Dusty's saying about making sure that for the end user, the listener, this is like a very cathartic and happy experience. On the creator side, what is your sort of emotional experience like between different platforms? Like, how does Spotify feel to you versus a TikTok versus a Reddit versus an Instagram?
Spotify to me feels like a lot less like pressure to like I don't necessarily always look at like my view counts or my downloads. Like I know they're there and I know I can access it whenever, and it's like very intricate and great data. But I feel like on Spotify, like I have people that come back every week, and I don't necessarily need to worry about that as much as I do on other platforms, which kind of drives me crazy when I do worry about it. So I'm able to be on Spotify just like a little more creative, a little more like myself, not worry about, okay, well, that episode was way funnier than that episode. Like that episode has way more clips than that episode. Like, is this episode going to do worse than that? It's like, no, like I'm building like an audience and a brand, and like Spotify like gives room for that.
And on our side, what we see is like many feed into each other. So if you take Alex Warren, who played our beach last night, has the biggest song in the world right now with Ordinary. I think maybe there are some big Alex Warren fans out there, but most people a year ago hadn't heard of him. And he largely broke on TikTok, but then people would come to Spotify to stream the content. And so it is a place where I do think like one can feed into the other. You're discovering things kind of all over the place, but then going to get a bit more to go deeper on a platform like ours.
When it comes to the business of influencing and being a content creator, you see these surveys now, Jake, with young kids say, I want to be an influencer when I grow up, thinking it's as easy as being, getting any other regular job. I don't think they understand that it is an aggressively competitive work environment. Can you just enlighten us? How did you build this business and how competitive is it?
It's very competitive, but I built it kind of just by like really, really being myself. Like
Yes.
I posted as I said, like 17 times a day, and when it's kind of happens sometimes when you don't think about it, and I'm very lucky in that sense. It like kind of just took off for me. But I would say like you can't. I think I think it's great that kids say that, but I almost worry that they're gonna try to like fit a mold, and like influencing like inherently is like an authentic thing. Because like you're like a taste, like if you're an influencer, you're a tastemaker, you're influencing people, and the only way you're actually able to do that is if you're like authentically yourself. So like I worry that if a bunch of kids like want to do that as a job, then they'll just try to fit a mold of what they think an influencer is, but that almost takes away from like the actual job title.
Yeah. What do you think for you as somebody who influences people? What is the number one impact that you think you've had on your audience?
I was actually talking about this yesterday. I don't think I'm very good at like selling like a bunch of products. What I am good at selling is anything that keeps you cold when you sleep. I'm not even kidding. Like anything that keeps you cold day in and day out. Like that is like my niche and my thing. But I'm very the way I talk about like mental health and stuff, I think is like probably like the most influence thing that like I'll do.
I'm also a big fan, and I will say, I think one of the things that you sell so well is, you said this earlier, authenticity, like being yourself, talking about the messy things, laughing about things that are really hard. Like, again, as a mom, those are lessons that I want my kids to incorporate in their lives. It's how I want them to grow up understanding it's good to be authentically who you are. There's nothing wrong with that. Even sort of finding comedy in the chaos. I think what you do is just absolutely brilliant, and that's why so many people listen.
I think that's why so many people listen, and that's why so many people are unabashedly unafraid to be your biggest fan. It's different from other creators. Sometimes you're like, do I want people to know that I'm still obsessed with 50 Cent? But like, I want everyone to know that I love Jake Shane. Dustee, can we just talk about Spotify's podcast business real fast?
Yes.
For a long time, I covered Spotify's investments in pods, and I think investors were a little bit skeptical about what this would do for the platform. And I think what they missed was that not only would it one day become accretive to your bottom line, which it has, but you drove a cultural conversation in a way that I don't think they ever really appreciated. Do you think that after building up folks like Jake, but then also the Joe Rogans of the world, like, do they get it now?
I do think they get it, but I think they get it because the numbers are showing itself. And so there's nothing more them proving something out than actually showing them the bottom line and going, see, we told you. But for those who haven't followed our journey as closely, as you know, Sarah, we really talked about this idea of we've always been a great product, but I think a lot of people question, given we pay out 70% of everything we make to the music industry, could we be a great business? And so we've long believed that the answer to that is yes, but it's in having so many different types of creators, so many different types of content, not just in one market, but around the world. And so now we have more than 4 million podcasts. We have 100 million tracks on Spotify. And what that equates to is lots of different content, lots of ideas, lots of inspiration, and a lot of people finding success. And so I do think we've had some really strong growth over the last couple of years. And so I think that has proven our case. But this idea of tapping into culture, I feel like it's being talked about a lot this week. And it's a hard thing everyone wants to do it, but it's a hard thing to do in a way that is truly, truly powerful as a brand. And so I feel really good that Spotify, both through celebrating creators, how we market the brand, we're really able to tap into culture by tapping into fandom and tapping into the creator mindset.
Okay, so at Axios, we like to end everything on one fun thing. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to start with Jake, and then we'll go to Dustee. I think when you are a humble person who is just doing what they love, to go from a place where you're a normal person to now a pretty influential person is a weird sliding gray scale. When was the moment that you knew this is what you were actually going to do for a living?
Probably when I quit my full-time job.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
And that was when you were working in music?
Yeah, and I tried to like do it for like a few months after, and then I was like, I just don't have time for both. And I was like, okay, I have to just fully commit to this.
But as Dustee said, if you ever want to go back, there's now
I know.
everyone that would hire
Thank
you.
God.
Always hiring.
And Dustee, you?
Yeah, I actually started my career as a broadcast journalist, and I have a lot of respect for what you do on that side of the house, but I didn't love it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have this journalism degree. What in the hell am I going to do with it? And I got a job working on Capitol Hill as a press secretary, and I loved telling stories, and I loved figuring out how to craft a narrative or deal with something messy. And so sort of those first moments, I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, and I very much enjoy it.
That is incredible. I love hearing, as a DC girl, I love hearing about people leaving from the nest and doing big things. Just a couple of awesome things that we went through today. The fact that Jake started in music, Dustee started in broadcast, but their careers took totally different shapes is a very inspirational thing, especially here at Cannes. There's so many people who've left the advertising world to do amazing things. I think about James Patterson as an example. Jake posting 17 times a day, I don't think people recognize how much work actually goes into it, but because you loved it, it didn't feel like work.
Yeah, at all. It didn't feel like work at all. It was so fun. I would post anything that came to mind. Like I used to have like a bit where I would like go into stores and like ask if they had straws.
How did you even come up with something like that?
Because nowhere in Eagle Rock had straws. 'Cause they all like weren't about that, I guess. And it was like, I would like post these videos where I'd like get a coffee from one place and like walk into the next place and ask for a straw. And like that was, they did well, honestly.
That is incredible. Just posting about the random things that everyone, if you have this question, I'm assuming other people are going to have the question, which is so fun. Okay, so Gen Z on Spotify, Dustee said 40% increase in video podcasts, but with Gen Z, it's 70%, which is pretty incredible. When it comes to Spotify, the data is really important. Jake was saying how, he leaves most of that to Louise, but just knowing that you have the ability to look at that data and analyze that data is important. Jake uses polls and comments to be able to have a little bit more of an intimate relationship with his audience. When we think about Spotify, you said there's less pressure there, which I think is super important. If you're going to be doing this full time, you want it to be a place where you feel seen, heard, and safe.
It's just like they give you more room to like grow as an artist and a creator.
I can't wait to take that back and tell them that.
Spotify, the anti-doom scrolling platform, that's a very good positioning. Leave it to the chief public affairs officer. You guys pay out the music industry 70%.
70%. $10 billion last year alone. $10 billion.
That is incredible. And then sort of when I think about the scale of Spotify, 4 million podcasts, you said 100 million tracks. What's so fascinating is that you are able to tap into niches with that. There are creators I follow who here nobody would know, but then you're also able to hit the masses. I think everybody here knows Jake. It's a really comprehensive platform. So congratulations on all of your success to both of you. And thank you so much for being here. Don't go anywhere. We've got a great segment with our publisher, Nick Johnston, and the folks at Uber, and then I'll be back up on stage. Thanks, guys.